Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Friday, October 10th, 2025. TGIF, thank God it's Friday. Thank God I'm free. And so glad to be back with you here on Your Free TV. I say thank you to everybody supporting the channel when I start out. Thank you, Grace, for the donation, and for everybody supporting monthly. You make it happen, and I so appreciate you. Donations, prayers, news tips, all of it. You make the channel happen, so thank you. So I'm going to jump right in here with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So there's so much news today. I'm just going to jump right in. I'll be, of course, plugging for my fantastic sponsor. Incredible product, c60evo.com/YAFTV. We'll get there at the end of the video, but they're fantastic, and they've got some great new studies coming out, just some incredible stuff from the top lab in the world, but in the USA, in Houston, Texas, making that incredible product. So, okay, let me jump in here with the news. Of course, we had the Nobel Peace Prize situation today. We'll jump there, but we're basically looking at this. We've all been waiting. Oh, prosecutions, indictments. We've got to get the criminals. We've got to get the deep state. Where clock is ticking, right? But now the avalanche is starting to roll. Okay, it's starting to roll. I'm going to get into the John Bolton thing coming up, with charges coming up against him. Huge ones. These are massive. Of course, we have Letitia James now indicted. And it's very interesting kind of what's going on behind the scenes here as Trump praises Bondi up and down. We have to remember that Trump often praises people that he is, let's say, kind of working around. Okay, we'll just put it like that to start here. But let's get into the Nobel stuff, and then we've got so much else besides. It's just massive. So let's just start in with the Nobel. So of course, Trump did not get the Nobel Prize, and it went to, of course, what is her name? Wonderful woman, Machado, out of Venezuela, and of course she has been huge in trying to fight the Maduro regime there in Venezuela. Trump has actually been helping her a lot, and she immediately dedicated her Nobel Peace Prize to Marina Corina Machado. She immediately dedicated the prize to Trump because she really felt he deserves it, which is what now is 8 wars ended, right? And so we have Putin coming out to talk about how the Nobel Prize has become crap, and basically, referencing how Obama got it for doing nothing except proposing that there'll be a nuclear-free world because they were going to do the JSPCA OA and billions of dollars and everything going down there with Iran and everything that happened. But Trump actually might be able, with Putin, to approach this denuclearization of the military globally, and that's on his agenda. And I think Israel will be coming into that because they, of course, have this whole nuclear weapons arsenal and program that doesn't ever get talked about, or just seems to somehow not be an issue because they would have to, of course, then be regulated and inspected, and all of that would have to happen. So it's going to be very interesting. But anywho, so Machado gets the prize. She, of course, has been fighting for the people in Venezuela. She's a fantastic woman, huge warrior for peace and for getting out of the socialist dictatorship that is Maduro in Venezuela, and the massive starvation of the people. They just destroyed the country, right? Chavez and then Maduro, and we've talked about this for years and years. But it's important to remember we had 70,000 Cambodian monks, okay, and the Prime Minister of Cambodia nominating Trump. He's been nominated like 8 times, and so he'll get it next year, right? He'll get it next year. But it's very interesting when you look at the Nobel Peace Prize, how it's so discredited, as Putin said today, that the board is all uber globalist liberal, and I think the director of the board on the Nobel is with Doctors Without Borders, right? You say Doctors Without Morals. just totally in the pocket of Bill Gates and the whole pharma cabal. And so very interesting there as Trump is taking them down massive notches. Happened today also in the Oval Office. Maybe we'll skip over to there first, but I just wanted to point that out to you that, the globalist run Nobel is it's almost it's just like, could Europe turn anymore to express their hatred of Trump? And this is as we just had in the last few days the arrest of 3 people in Belgium trying to murder, basically a teist plot, the Prime Minister of Belgium. And she, of course, is trying to prevent Euroclear and the EU and Ursula von der Leyen and the whole European International Bolshevism 100 years later group from liquidating the $300 billion in assets of Russia that is in Euroclear, because she says it will just destroy the euro. It's insane. Nobody will ever trust the euro again if we liquidate assets of Russia, as we still, of course, Europe continues to buy the gas and oil from Russia. I mean, it's just, it's so ridiculous. So anyway, as I brought it up, and everything about pharma, let's just jump here to what happened today in the Oval Office. We get Trump and Bobby Kennedy and the other directors that are, the CDC and the Medicare, Social Security, Medicare, the Medicare and Medicaid guy, Oz, in there. Well, basically what happened is we get AstraZeneca now in there. You just watch these CEOs, they're captured. And basically with the whole most favored nations deal, we have what happened is AstraZeneca is on board, just like Pfizer, to basically say Americans are now going to pay the lowest price for the most favored nations because we buy the most drugs, unfortunately, and hopefully that will stop. But basically that the prices are going to go way, way, way down. Okay. Meaning a lot for people that use inhalers, have asthma, COPD, diabetic drugs, these kinds of things. And they're going to be onshoring their manufacturing plants. They already have 4. It's like one in Texas, one near Boston, one in Virginia, that are breaking ground to be building manufacturing for the drugs in the United States, and $50 billion of that. So very, very exciting. And when RFK Jr. got up to speak at this, he said, under Biden, they faked these reduction in prices, claiming they had reduced prices. But what they did instead was they just charged more to Medicaid and Medicare for the drugs. So they ended up paying more. And he exposed that today, which was excellent. He also said that Trump's strategy of using leverage against these companies, basically the U.S. is your biggest customer. We pay all the R&D, plus we also have all the goods on everything you've done in the last 6 years and everything to do COVID, and in all of this. So it's interesting, the leverage concept of what HHS Director Kennedy was saying today. And he basically said that, we never thought we'd be able to get most favored nations. It was just like such an impossible dream. And yet we took Trump's plan of leveraging and basically insisted on the reshoring of the companies and et cetera. So very exciting wins here. And of course, it's important to remember that the Trump tariffs, that Secretary Bessent and all the rest of them created to McKinley style bring this nation back to the equal standing of other nations that all do tariffs, and basically say that the tariffs that Trump put down on these countries where these companies are domiciled was what convinced them, of course, we have to go and manufacture in the US so we can avoid the massive tariffs. And so very exciting, very, very good day there in the Oval. And also Melania Trump in the Oval today as well, which I'll get to in a moment. But we have also coming out here is MEHA, MEHA. So we've got MAHA here in the US, and now in Europe, they're launching huge MEHA, Make Europe Healthy Again. We've got Sayer G, He's fantastic. We all know who he is. I'll see if I can link him below. But I link an article talking about MEHA kicking off in Belgium, in Brussels, that they're going to be CRG on the board there, and that they are basically wanting to follow the guidance that's been going on here in the U.S. to do the same thing in Europe. So that's incredible news as well. I also want to bring up, of course, that we want to pray for all the people. Many died today. There was an explosion in Tennessee at a plant. I believe it's a tin manufacturing plant for munitions, okay, for weapons or ammunition at this military plant in Tennessee. And I don't know much about it because I only just found out recently. Tomorrow I'll hopefully know more, but we need to pray for the people involved here because many have died, and then there's many still missing in this explosion. So just please pray for the people going through that tragedy. You have to wonder every time you hear of an explosion at specifically a military-related plant to do with weapons, especially what's going on. And I don't have any other important, links into that yet, but I'm looking. And I also want to remind people on an action point, and of course I'm going to get into OMB, and when I've talked about RFK Jr., maybe I'll just do that now. So of course, Russ Vogt put out today the reduction in force initiative has begun. And so the firings have begun. We knew it would take a few days here into the shutdown, and now they've started. We don't know a lot yet into where they're going, but we have heard that there is, it looks like HHS and Kennedy, massive reduction in force, okay, meaning firing people, okay, across HHS and of course the different agencies underneath HHS. And the purpose of this, what happened with Russ Vogt, head of Office of Management and Budget, and he created this whole template for it, was he put out last week, please, to all the cabinet secretaries and then the directors of agencies, that we need you to submit reduction in force plans. And of course, the whole point is to get rid of the waste, abuse, and fraud, meaning all of the disgusting grift and the disgusting money going to everything that harms us and hurts our country. And so that's all underway and happening. It's fantastic. And it looks like HHS is the first place where we're getting these cuts happening. So I'll report more on that on Monday, I hope. And it's just it's exciting to watch, right? The avalanche is beginning, and the whole squeezing down. It's going to save billions of dollars if they can cut down the federal government and get rid of all this waste and grift, because that's what it is. It's just money going to pockets of people that want to harm us and control us and take our taxpayer dollars. So it is very exciting and fantastic. And so I'll jump back to, and then I'm going to get to John Bolton and so much more, right, is, action, I did want to say action, right, is that New Jersey, okay, and of course Virginia, because, I really like so much, Winsome Earl Sears, the woman who's running in Virginia, and it doesn't look like she's a lieutenant governor, born Jamaican, naturalized citizen. She's lieutenant governor of Virginia under Youngkin, and she was in the military, became naturalized citizen through her service in the military, I believe, in the 80s, and she's incredible. She's fantastic. She's fighting that Spanberger person I've been talking about so much in my last few videos, totally corrupt former CIA. I really wish that she could win Virginia. Virginia, as we're going to see, and I'm going to talk about Lindsey Halligan, what's going on there with the indictments and kind of squirreling around Bondi to get those charges brought, how important it is that we can change the tide in Virginia. But Spanberger has a lot of money behind her. So that would be one way to really get involved, is volunteer. You don't have to be there in Virginia to volunteer. So if as we've got November 4th coming for this election and the election of what's happening in New Jersey, which we're going to get into in a second. And so you want to make sure, if you're in those states, New Jersey and Virginia, that you sign up to vote in time if you haven't registered yet. and get in there with your in-person voting. But so let's talk about New Jersey here for a second. So what we have here is for action in New Jersey, same thing: canvassing, phone calls, donating. This is of course for Chitterelli in New Jersey. He's fantastic, and he's going up against that Mikey Sherrill person, who, you know, all the scandals coming out about her cheating around her military service and military academy and all this crazy stuff. Um, and just pretty awful, basically. But go to njchase.org, njchase.org, so newjerseychase.org, and check it all out, what you can do there. The last day to register to vote is October 14th in New Jersey, and I believe for early voting starts on October 25th. So very important. You can make calls from wherever you are, okay? They need your help. So one way to take action. And there was a fantastic rally there in Wildwood, New Jersey, right there on the Jersey Shore today. And it ended with a vigil for Charlie Kirk, because of course today is the 30-day anniversary of Charlie's assassination. And you know, just beautiful words said for him, and all of it. And of course, thank goodness for Candace Owen, who can just completely keeps chasing it down. And hopefully I'll have time to go in and talk about some of the fantastic things she uncovered yesterday, which were amazing. If you haven't gotten a chance to hear about that yet. But I think I want to segue here into John Bolton. So it's now coming clear that John Bolton is going to be charged, okay? And it's coming out, and it's very interesting because we're getting leaks, right? We're getting leaks coming out, you know, and now we're getting CNN and MSNBC or CBS now with their new you know, David Ellison, right, in control there. They're now saying it looks like Epstein might not have killed himself. And it looks like that the crime scene was completely scrubbed. His cell was totally scrubbed and tampered with immediately right after, you know, the thing happened, right, where he died, supposedly. And I always remind people that the last person to visit Jeffrey Epstein was Bill Barr, was former AG Bill Barr, right? That he went in there, and then supposedly Epstein was dead, right? And then the crime scene was scrubbed, and his brother is saying, "Oh, the autopsy doesn't show that it was natural causes," all this stuff. So, anywho's what's, that's all interesting because you know, on some level, it's interesting because the Bill Barr situation and this John Bolton situation, because John Bolton, now the U.S. Attorney in Maryland, apparently there's a grand jury convened there, and the soon to be indicted on multiple, these are serious charges on John Bolton, to do with multiple charges on sharing national intelligence classified information. And this is basically treason. And you get into things like pay for play, and this, there'll be, there's going to be many charges here. And it gets into basically selling his time, even when he was in Trump's cabinet, all this stuff. But as this was first starting to come out, when John Bolton first got his house, you know, searched by the FBI, and all of that was going down, it was being talked about at that time that you had Bill Barr closely associated with John Bolton in some of these schemes. Okay, and so I'm wondering if one by one in this avalanche, because these are initial charges. It's like Letitia James. It starts out with a couple charges, but it's going to become a much bigger charge. Okay, and the same thing here with Comey. And so these charges look like they'll be coming out next week for Bolton, and we got to see, you know, because these people who are first indicted and first charged are the ones that, of course, will be having the opportunity to flip up. And it's why there's so many enormous amounts of whistleblowers coming forward, I believe, for people in the lower echelons coming forward to the FBI and the DOJ, breaking, you know, giving confidences to basically protect themselves, who have no clout, and no money to go through some massive lawfare situation or indictments. So we will see what happens, and we'll keep following it. But with Lindsey Halligan in Virginia, what we're finding out now, and it got leaked, right, to CNN or whatever, is that Lindsey Halligan did not coordinate, okay, with Bondi at the DOJ. Okay, she did not coordinate because what was going on with when Eric Siebert was in there as U.S. attorney in, of course, that Eastern District of Virginia, where all this is going down, and it's just a massively hostile place to everything American and Trump and all of us. Is that Eric Siebert was holding out to do multiple indictments, James Comey, Letitia James, and also, of course, Adam Schiff is on that list. Okay, so I think we can expect that Adam Schiff will be indicted soon as well for entertainment purposes only. So very interesting that Lindsey Halligan, and that's why I say Trump says, "Oh, Bondi, she's doing such a great job, and then sends one of his White House advisor lawyers immediately down. Okay, fires Siebert, puts Halligan in, and gets the indictments done before the statute of limitations on Comey runs out. And so I think Adam Schiff is in the crosshairs, but hopefully he'll be having just a lovely, long, nice spa weekend, right? Out there in Napa, because all the Dems during the shutdown, they have their big annual fundraiser in a massive Napa spa winery, huge, fancy. I'm sure it's connected to Newsom somehow for entertainment purposes only. He owns a bunch of wineries and things in Napa. And they're going to be all partying there all weekend and, trying to figure out how the heck they're going to survive this avalanche. But it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to watch. So last hurrah there in Napa at the spa. Enjoy it, Adam, and all of you, while you sit there. And I don't think they'll be enjoying it as much as they thought they would have, like Swalwell, right, out of California, who's on video advertising No Kings merch, No Kings merch, right? Robert De Niro in his video coming out and saying, reading from the teleprompter with his puppet overlords, he's a puppet from his overlords over him, that he must support the No Kings rallies coming up on the 18th, right? So we've got 8 days until the big old No Kings going to happen there. Next Saturday, DC, all across the country. This is the big one we thought they were going to be doing back in the spring, but now they waited, okay, to gather their forces, which are rapidly being chased down, okay, like dogs that they are, by the FBI and the DOJ and the Treasury for the funding of all of it. And De Niro gets up there and just says, "Oh, the first No Kings rally happened during the revolution to get, fight King George, and now we have King Trump, and we have to, it's just so ridiculous how they try to spin this stuff and nobody's believing it. It's so wonderful, isn't it? God's grace and just the waking up of people just having their spiritual centers open, their eyes awakened, and they're just like, whoa, all of this has just been crazy nuts. We've been completely brainwashed, and it's just, it's not happening. And so very interesting. One thing that was great to see on social media was someone put up a tweet from Letitia James in about 18 months ago now, on February 16th of 2024, literally putting out this huge long tweet about how loan fraud and lying on mortgage applications, or lying on loan applications, all is harmful for working people, working Americans, when you get these fraudulent loans. I mean, it's insane, because you have people like Joel Gilbert, who's just done such great jobs, with his documentary movies and books on Obama and everybody else. He's just so fantastic. Well, he's been super, just squirreling in on this Letitia James stuff. And the reason I brought up that tweet was, of course, that's what she was saying about Trump with his bank loan that he got and paid back and leveraged on Mar-a-Lago. And she tried to say that he overestimated the value of Mar-a-Lago, which is ridiculous. Okay, but anyway, we know all that. But very interesting to see that that these initial bank fraud um, allegations are going to really balloon, because she doesn't just have this issue of her Richmond, Virginia home, claiming it as a residence. It goes way back to like when she was 23 years old. It goes back 30 years of claiming her father was her husband on the first loan that she got, the first mortgage that she applied for, going in with her father saying it was her husband, and getting this better deal on a mortgage because of it, or basically a mortgage at all that she wouldn't have qualified for otherwise. Her New York City apartment building, one thing that in 2021, what Gilbert points out is that she had taken out in 2021, took out a $200,000 credit line on that 5 apartment building that she owns. And she already had lied on that mortgage, saying that it was a 4 apartment building, which keeps it residential instead of commercial. Okay, so tax fraud, just every kind of fraud, and bank fraud, mortgage fraud, tax fraud. And then this credit line, $200,000. When she got that credit line, she actually claimed the building was just a personal single family home, the 5 apartment building. So she is in a world of hurt, and I think it's fantastic. I do. I think it's great. And so going to Melania Trump, she did a great presser today also at the Oval Office, talking about how she's been working directly with President Putin and his team to bring back children that have been kidnapped, have been taken during the Ukraine war. And of course, the mainstream globalist media spins this as, oh, the Russians have stolen all the Ukraine children. But she's working, she's working with Ukrainian humanitarian groups as well, but she's working with Putin's government directly. And one of the people, basically the person that she focused on mostly in her speech, is that her team is working to reunite Ukrainian children with their families. She said, we've only been able to return 8 so far, but we're trying to find these children that are missing. And it's going to be, what's really happened to these children has been, of course, worse and I believe that's where this is all going, to what's happened to the trafficking of the children out of Ukraine. And basically, but she highlighted that one of the girls was actually was found in Ukraine, was returned to Russia. So very interesting twist that we're getting here as this all goes on. I believe it's going to get into the bigger scandal of the trafficking of the children out of Ukraine, and we'll be watching, right? Because there's just so much going down. We've got, of course, in Kiev, there was huge bombings by Russia on LNG plant infrastructure, and several people died, and there was, I think, a lost power, no power in parts of Kiev now at this point. And so this is this wait out game that's going on here, with behind the scenes Trump waiting out, Putin waiting out, while they basically are waiting for how they're going to collapse this war, how are going to oust Zelensky and the war, and stop this World War III scenario that Europe is trying to push. And so we'll keep watching that, and we will let you know. One little aside that I think is interesting is that Turning Point USA is putting out an alternative halftime show for the Super Bowl to Bad Bunny, who nobody wants to watch at all. And so they're going to be doing, I think you can go on TPUSA website right now and vote, for who you want to be there, who you want the show to what you want it to be about. They're kind of doing a faith, family, freedom sort of theme. Worship looks high on the list right now, but go in there. I know there's rock and roll high in there, but that's going to be fantastic. That during the Super Bowl halftime, you can get away from the ads and and Bad Bunny, and watch something awesome during the Super Bowl halftime in February if that is your jam. And so, okay, moving from there, of course, we have the Qatari situation where we get Hegseth announcing today that Qatar is going to be having a facility, basically an Air Force training facility to train pilots on the F-15s. So they're basically saying it is a Qatari project for mutual training operations at Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho. And that, yeah, okay. And so this came with an executive order, I think that Trump did with alliance and protection with Qatar. And it's very interesting. Qatar is interesting. People have a lot of misconceptions. Oh, it's just the Hamas, place, and it's just not. That's not true. Qatar has a lot of money. They discovered LNG reserves, and they just huge money, and they have, of course, their monarchy with a Wahhabi population. Not a huge fan of Wahhabism, in case you haven't noticed. But basically, there's about 3 million people living in Qatar, and just to finish that up, so there'll be this Emiri Air Force training facility, the Emir being the family, the Al Thani royal family, to train pilots on how to fly the F-15s. Okay, and at first you're like, yeah, you think, oh, well, the U.S. has bases all over the world in every country, practically, and we're not used to have anybody come in here and have an installation on any of our bases, right? And everybody's always freaking out that Trump is like, the puppet of Qatar, and that's just simply not true. Okay, what's going on here is that Trump is selling the F-15 to Qatar, and they don't know how to fly them. And so basically, instead of just saying, "Hey, we'll train you to fly them as well," Trump is saying, "Hey, put some more money into the USA. That $1.2 trillion you already are doing isn't, on top of that, let's get you in. How about you just, create a facility, basically spend more money in the USA, and then we'll train your pilots there." And it's also strategic in this whole peace board situation, this whole Israeli deal, which of course is, the worst nightmare of the Israeli intelligence cabal situation that is now happening. Trump says that the hostages and the dead bodies will be returned starting Monday, and he's going to be going there over the weekend to Egypt and Israel. I believe Israel first. He says he will be speaking at the Knesset. Very interesting there. And I think this is another time for massive prayer. But this alliance with Qatar has, for the last dozen years or so, been very, very careful to be neutral. They are putting themselves out there as a neutral country. It's why so many negotiations happen there, and they stuck by it. And while people always think, oh, there's tons of money coming to the U.S. through Qatar, it's a huge influence. The Qatar lobby is like not a thing, really. I mean, it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just compared to AIPAC or Israel, that these massive lobbies. Ukraine is massive, like AIPAC size lobby with the oligarchs out of Ukraine, etc. That with Qatar, they put money into things that are what they want to build. So they've put a gazillion dollars into education. And you think, oh, they're trying to bribe all of our universities here in the US, they're doing all of that. But really what they're doing is they're building US annex universities in Qatar, in this area in Doha that's called Education City. And they have multiple US universities that have put wings there, that where they've built those. Okay, they've built those as their education infrastructure over there, and that's where that money comes from. So it's all very interesting to look at it all, and I'll link a great video below where you can kind of get the history of what's really going on with Qatar and kind of understand it. It certainly is a majorly, Wahhabist kingdom, and all of these kingdoms that just, sprouted up and get to be, royal families, just across the world. They're royal families. They rule the world. It's just all, in my opinion, totally gross. But this is an interesting strategy that Trump is doing, because I believe that this, this commitment with Qatar for Trump really is about that the U.S. wants a neutral nation that is going to be very closely allied in what's going to go down here in this Middle East peace situation that is changing the world utterly. And on the disgusting, awful heels of the dead, I'm a person who thinks there should be a three-state solution, or at least could we get guarantees that all the destroyed Christian infrastructure in Gaza will be rebuilt, and that there will be a massive allocation for the Christians who have been decimated in Gaza, and not to mention all across the areas where Israel has taken over the Levant, and where you see what are jihadi deep state, John Brennan, James Comey, who used to be a communist, by the way, by his own words, absolutely was a communist like Brennan. And of course their 7 countries in 7 years plan, where they destroyed all the Christian infrastructure throughout the Middle East that they could. And so, the calls coming in from from inside the house, these people are the enemy of America and Christendom. And they've intentionally, Barack Obama being a huge, massive operative, of course, spread this Muslim Brotherhood money and power throughout the Western world. And of course, now in Houston, Texas, you're getting Sharia, just like in Dearborn, Michigan. You're getting in Houston, Texas, the same thing happening with Sharia police going out into neighborhoods that are predominantly Muslim, where they are going to shop owners and saying, you can't sell pork and bacon here, you can't sell pork, you can't sell booze, you can't sell cigarettes. And it's just so funny because Muslims have bought up all of the convenience stores, right, where these things are sold. It's either Muslims or Hindus, it's just true. Indians or Middle Eastern Muslims have bought up all of the infrastructure to do with that part of the economy, as well as, of course, the hotels, motels in the United States and abroad as well. So it is an economic infrastructure takeover that couldn't have happened just out of the blue, shall we say? Okay, and so as we watch this all happening, it is very interesting to see. Okay. And I'm not going to go too much further into Qatar tonight, but I will get back to it and what's going on there. And so let's go from here. One last thing I will say with Qatar is they do have the Qatar investment fund, the sovereign wealth fund there. And so we will, what they do feeds into that, and it feeds back into how they are building their country with their decisions they make for investing across the world. So it's a very interesting country. Okay, and so now I want to, well, should I mention that now? No, I'll get back there in a second. Okay, and so I want to go from there, I think, to talk about a few other things that we really do need to be aware of course, as we had Prime Minister Mark Carney here the other day, and Trump joking with him about how, oh, we're going to talk about merging Canada and the United States. And Mark Carney was, pissed off and smiling, right? Well, there's some really serious stuff going on in Canada that is, of course, meant to come here on the to the USA as well. And so very, very interesting stuff that we need to take care of, because it is very, disturbing. And this has to do with oh, actually, I will go. I'm going to get there. I'm going to go into Canada with these awful bills. Basically, it's digital ID, it's medical tyranny, all the same stuff, and it's really important for the Canadian people to stop it. But I did want to mention, when we talk about sovereign wealth funds, well, Russia's sovereign wealth fund The guy running it is Kirill Dmitriev, who I've been talking about as being this kind of Q whisperer guy out of Russia, who's saying, Russia's working with China and and Trump here to bring down the New World Order, the globalist cabal. And he keeps dropping these messagings. He just keeps doing it. He actually is the special envoy to the USA out of Russia, and he also runs Russia's sovereign wealth fund. So it's just interesting. And we get Anna Polina Luna putting out a letter, press release letter, I think 2 days ago now, or maybe yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where she said that she is going to meet. So Representative Anna Polina Luna out of Florida is going to go and meet with Kirill Dmitriev later this month. She just announced this. So that is very, very peculiar and interesting too. Huh, that's interesting, right? And so we're going to keep following that. We're going to definitely see what's up, right? And so, when we look at, Trump kind of keeping Bondi at a far reach, right? Putting in Halligan and all of that. We just have to remember, of course, Bondi was Israel's pick for AG, right? And that's the whole Matt Gaetz, honeypot attack scheme that Israel did on Matt Gaetz. That's why Matt Gaetz is not AG or not even in the Congress anymore, because he decided that he didn't want to fully bankrupt his life and go through enormous hell. And so now he's a podcaster, right? Or he's on what is it? The other, not Newsmax, but the other one that's not controlled by Israel. He's on that network. But yeah, he basically has confirmed that, yes, it was Israel who did this honeypot scheme on me. And they did it because they wanted Bondi in as AG. And so it's very important to understand what we're up against and what Trump is up against in this incredible move by move. And you can call it chess, call it whatever you want, but the avalanche is starting to roll. Okay, the indictments are coming in, and it's going to be a crucial and incredible few months, people. Absolutely amazing. Okay, and so I wanted to get to these Canada bills. Let me make sure I get there now. This is really important for the people of Canada. The bills, okay. Total surveillance, basically, medical surveillance and digital ID. And people need to understand that in Canada, within, I think by 2028, they're saying, so 2 years from now, basically, that the number one cause of death in Canada will be euthanasia. Okay, the MAID system, right? Medical assisted death, right? This MAID system where you get in your sarcophagus, right? This plastic biodegradable thing, they gas you to death, just like, gassing people to death. And so many people are forced to do this because they just won't give them government funds anymore. They're like, sorry, we can't pay for you. You're too expensive. You might as well just kill yourself, kind of thing. It's just so disgusting. It's evil, like evil. And it's projected to be the number one cause of death in Canada within 2 years, which is absolutely horrific. And so these bills are even more poignant because of it. So you get C2, Bill C2, called the Strong Borders Act, where they're basically making it that that the government is allowed, trying to say that they're fighting mass migration and just complete baloney. But basically, because of the migrant problem, I mean, that this is what they do, is that they are going to be surveilling all cash interactions, cash transactions, excuse me, that are over a certain amount, that they are giving themselves the right to basically surveil, go through anyone's mail, anyone's post, that they can go through all of their your private mail, right? Remember, it's a federal offense if you open someone else's letter, unless it's the government, right? In Canada, Strong Borders Act, C2, and that the government can do warrantless searches of anyone's electronics at any time. Just basically what they've been doing anyway, but now just making it legal that the government can jump into your text messages, jump into your cell phone records, your laptop, what you're doing online. And they don't have to come to your house to do it. They can do it all remotely, obviously. And so that's C2. And then you get, I believe, what is C8, which is the Cybersecurity Act. And this is where they're trying to make it so that everybody online has to have the digital ID, that you have to, in order to subscribe to anything, you must, show your positive ID, your government ID, and that they're reserving the right in this Cybersecurity Act to be able to kick anybody off the internet, China CCP style, right? Social credit score style, be able to kick anyone off the internet, because why? Well, that would be this C9, it has parts in it, but there's the Combating Hate Act and the Online Harms Act. Okay, and gets into pre-crime and all of it. It's all social credit score. It's all the EU plan with the digital, the UN digital compact, all of it. And this is where on the Online Harms Act, it's that people, your neighbors, your Stasi, can basically recommend you kind of, red flag laws style to do with, guns and things. But this has to do with speech, okay? Online Harms Act, that you can be put under house arrest preemptively, okay? And get preemptive punishment. You get kicked off the internet, and then they can put you on an ankle bracelet and keep you at home, a Minority Report style. If people believe that you are going to commit hate online, it sounds draconian because it is absolutely prison planet. And you can get up to $50,000 fines, all of it. And then also in C9, the Combating Hate Act. Okay, and this Combating Hate Act, it is what it sounds like. Okay, and it is basically, it's a crime to say or write hate speech, offensive speech, and they're going to totally scrub the internet in whichever way they please. So this is really serious in Canada, and so I want to put it out there because, of course, they're right on our borders, and it just keeps squeezing faster and faster as the EU tried to impose their desire to do exactly all of this stuff, remotely into all of our electronics. And of course, you had Gail Slater, everybody working and threatening Google and all of them, that you want an easy thing with this antitrust thing we're doing to you, you're going to say no, and that's why you're going to say no to Europe, and that's the same thing with Zuckerberg and the rest of them. Okay, and it's getting them into the reaches, okay, of the Trump administration, into the reaches of the America First mandate for constitutional law to be upheld electronically. So it's very interesting to see. Okay, let's see. I'm going to cover a couple more things. Basically, I wanted to, let me see. Okay, yeah, I wanted to cover, I think I want to get into, sorry, there's something specific I don't want to miss here. I might have to get back to it because it's not jumping out at me now. I think I might go over into, the Charlie Kirk stuff, as we all pray for him, as it's been now 1 month since the event that happened in Utah, and so I think I'm going to go there. And of course, you can always go straight to. Okay, I'm going to get into Charlie Kirk here in a second. Sorry that I had that long pause. I should just pause the video, but I always forget to do that. It's weird when you don't have a team and you're doing this on your own here. But basically, I did want to mention that part of the shutdown in the furloughing, et cetera, that's gone on with OMB and the Treasury is that one half of the entire IRS has been furloughed. So that's good news. One half of the IRS furloughed, fantastic, love it. And I also wanted to mention this about Comey's trial. Okay, coming up famously, that he'll have his next, I believe, court date is November 19th, I think, and then you get his trial starting January 5th. And that's quite poignant because that's exactly, of course, the 5th anniversary to the day of when this plan was unleashed to do with the Fedsurrection and everything that went down after it. But one thing that's very interesting here is that his main lawyer, who's been coming out saying, it's my biggest honor in life to be able to defend James Comey and, East Virginia court where he used to be, where he used to perform prosecutions and all of this, and just waxing eloquent about how much James Comey is such an upstanding, great guy. Patrick Fitzgerald. Well, it turns out that this is a massive conflict of interest and should never have been allowed, that he can be even representing Comey, and I believe he could be indicted for entertainment purposes only. But Patrick Fitzgerald, longtime associate of Comey and lawyer of his, he actually he received the 4 memos, okay, that Comey leaked. He sent them to Patrick Fitzgerald. It's all literally digitally there, completely there in evidence that we get Patrick Fitzgerald, the 4 memos that Comey leaked. He sent directly to Fitzgerald early on, like first. Okay, and then Fitzgerald sent them to 2 other lawyers involved with Comey, who are David Kelly and this Richmond guy, Richmond. And so it's very interesting because one of the people they tried to get unraveled in this Russiagate honeypot situation was this woman, Svetlana Lakova. And she wrote this book called Spygate Exposed because they ruined her life, and she wanted to stand up for herself, and she wanted to prove everything, and she did a fantastic job. And she basically she covered it all. She covered it all about Lisa Page and Strzok knowing about the leak, and the memos to the New York Times, all of it. So all of this is already documented, and Patrick Fitzgerald's going to find himself, I think, in a bit of a pickle, shall we say, for coming in representing Comey, because he was literally involved in the situation. And so very interesting there. So basically, as I said, the avalanche is on the loose, and this John Bolton situation is huge. Okay, this is huge. That's where we get into huge national secrets being traded for pay for play. And can't wait. Just can't wait. And so let's get into here about Charlie Kirk's murder scene here. And as it's 1 month, I pray for him. I pray for him. And so I do still pray every day for Charlie Kirk. And so Candace Owens, of course, thank goodness for her. She's doing yeoman's work out there, just, doggedly going after every, her timeline and her list of people involved and all of it. And of course, what she put out yesterday was fantastic. So I'll just give you a brief thing, and you can go watch her video if you want, but I recommend it hugely. But she basically, said that there's no bullet recorded on the death certificate because it's specifically not a 306, mega bullet that would have blown his body apart and the entire, the stage behind him. But no bullet recorded on the death certificate. You get this situation of the new medical examiner at the state of Utah who came out of Missouri, Dr. Deidre Weiss Omaro, installed in May. You get, this is very poignant, I thought, which was, and we've got George Webb now who's been trying to track down the footage out of TPUSA. Just give us the footage, like from the back, especially to Charlie's left. There's no footage from that side, but they have it all from that back footage, but they just won't release it. But one thing was really, really interesting here, and I think this is smoking gun, no bad jokes intended, but type of stuff. And this was this kid who was a TPUSA member of the audience there at UVU, who was only 3rd row in. He was on the 3rd row, and he was kind of to Charlie's sort of direct front, a bit to Charlie's left, I believe. And he said, as soon as he heard the shots, and you hear, there's audio of people saying, there's two shots, there's two shots. Okay, that's huge and important to remember. But this kid was like, I immediately looked to my left first, and then I looked to my right. And he says, and then Charlie slumped forward. And then Charlie slumped forward, and blood was pouring out of his neck. And I think that's amazing because everything we've seen is not Charlie slumping forward. It's all him with this hanging microphone, back with the gushing blood out of the carotid or whatever. And this kid says he's and then he slumped forward. Okay. And right as he says that, and we've all heard the hologram cameras, we've heard so many stuff. There's now footage that's been coming out virally of, where that black, table sheath that's all around the table. When he shot, you get people, a couple of those security people go under the table, and you can see the big hole under the table. It's like literally right there, the big hole under the table. But this kid who gives this testimony, who's right in front of him in the third row when it happens, says he slumped forward, and then you get he was literally pushed away completely. And I saw the video, just pushed away by this other guy wearing also the same TPUSA shirt, who ends up going on Fox that night, ends up going on Fox the next morning, and he's not even with TPUSA, but he's a volunteer. Okay, but like literally physically shoved this teen away. He shoved him and was angry, and the kid was like, get off me, what are you doing? Basically this was not cool. It was a violent act, and he shoves the kid away. And this guy who did the shoving, his name is Cooper Brown, and he's from this thing called the Leadership Institute that just happens to be this national organization, this Leadership Institute that goes on, works for multiple conservative university groups, conservative groups that work on universities, and it goes and volunteers supposedly at these conservative organizations for these events, and that there were 30 plus of these volunteers from this Leadership Institute at the Charlie Kirk event. And he's the one that ends up on Fox, okay? And he's the one, interestingly, and this is another really poignant thing that Candace says, and please support her, YouTube all around. I think steadily she's on YouTube as far as everyday reliable, if you want to find them easily, her videos. But this kid, Cooper Brown, what he said on Fox News the next morning was that his job that he felt so honored to do, as a volunteer who doesn't know Charlie from Adam, ends up being the one who manages the microphone that day. And then he's the one that's shoving the kid away, who's saying, Charlie, Charlie slumped forward. Yeah, this is very, very interesting and getting more so by the day. And I, in contrast to Phil Lyman, the former gubernatorial candidate there in Utah, and everything that I've been talking about him forever. Well, you get juxtapose that with former Representative Jason Chavez, who of course now is always on Fox News and stuff. Well, he was there as well, and he's been doggedly saying, and he said immediately after, that it seemed like the shot was a close shot, that he seems truly, truly distressed and dismayed, in shock and traumatized by Charlie's death, and that he was on Fox immediately, and then again in the days after, where he was holding his ground, saying that it seemed like it was a close shot, straight ahead, in close proximity. So there's all that going on, zero blood on Charlie's shirt, amazing, zero blood anywhere in anybody, but there you go. So very interesting also in the crowd, where you get people coming out saying, we were basically being, hoarded by feds, telling us what the narrative is, telling us what we should or shouldn't say, basically trying to kind of MK Ultra this scene of what happened into their heads against what their actual minds and memories told them. And so this is it. This is where we're going. And pray for Candace Owens. Okay, she's in a tricky spot. But more and more people are coming around. So, but truly pray for her. Pray for everybody. We get what's his name? Interesting guy. What is his name? Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson had to go to my memory instead of my notes. More reliable often. Of course, he came out on this presser out of Tampa, Florida this morning with Bondi as well, where they're saying they arrested this man, somebody George, who I think they said he's in his 60s, who wrote a letter of hate and murder to Benny Johnson and his family, and it was awful, just a disgusting, awful letter. And so they arrested this guy, and so they had the press conference about that this morning too, basically saying, letting everybody know out there, hey, if you continue to make these threats, you will get arrested. And so that guy did get arrested, and so very interesting. Yeah, not going to go too far more into that right now. Okay, folks, it's been an hour. I have a ton more, but I'm going to leave it for Monday because I have to. Got to get going here. But it is Friday night. The weekend's coming, and I hope that you are able to fit in tons of prayer, tons of prayer time, little digital time. Get yourself some exercise and some friends and some fellowship and some family, and exercise your freedom, right? Don't be 15-minute city in your mind, created by your mind, while you're still free. Get out there and do stuff and enjoy human beings and nature and animals. And it's October, there's all kinds of Oktoberfests going on. And, it's just that time of year where there's a lot going on. So go enjoy community and, of course, fellowship and prayer. Okay, Trump heading over the Middle East. Never like it, don't like it. So huge amounts of prayer for Trump and his team, for America against FFs. That could be coming our way. And of course, like I said, for Candace Owens. And today, for the month anniversary of Charlie Kirk's assassination, prayers for Charlie, because he is an incredible person, once in a generation type of guy, with, he had the Trump dimension. And so, they took him out because he would be a future president. So that's what we pray for, God's intervention, for all evil that's being construed and constructed, that they will be absolutely thwarted in all of the plans to do evil against us, and that we will be utilized with our God-given gifts to do the best things we can and be inspired to take action. Take action. New Jersey, njchase.org. Do that. That's simple. Precinctstrategy.com. It's heating up, okay? The people that are going to be running in the midterms, literally, I think, mostly it's like in February is when the last chance to register there to be a candidate around. So get busy, folks, but also enjoy some R&R this weekend. You are free. And check out my sponsor, c60evo.com. Give them a look. c60evo.com/YAFTV. You've heard it so many times, but seriously, ESS60 is the purest form of carbon-60 out there because it is made in a incredible reactor in an incredible lab and then completely purified. It's just an incredible product, and people using it for all of the degenerative diseases, okay, to rid them of all of the crap that is in their cells and their mitochondria attached to their DNA, all of it, getting that garbage out. Because on Monday I want to get back to talking about the intra-body nano network, and why it is such a huge problem, okay, that the big end game here is that they're trying to link us all up, okay, and not trying, they literally have, and it's why people can't feel or think or have giant, aspirations or feel God, all of these things, and that garbage needs to get out of your body. So check it out, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off, and anybody who's ever donated to the channel gets 15% off, different link and codes sent to you. Check it out. And if you found something in this video that you find to be helpful, eye-opening, whatever, and you just want to support the channel, I would so appreciate it. There's ways to do so below. And I always super appreciate people who donate monthly, get on the monthly thing, because it helps me to, forecast my next month, what I'll be able to do. So thank you so much for watching. You are free, and I will see you Monday.